of Advaita. Nectar of Advaita. If you compare all the Upanishads to flowers, the teaching of the Upanishad, which is nothing other than Advaita, it is like nectar. And the author has collected the message of Advaita from all the Upanishads and condensed it into this small Prakarana Grantha. Therefore, he has named it Advaita Makaranda. This is a very short, concise, meanwhile very profound Grantha. There are various types of Prakarana Granthas. If you look at the Prakarana Grantha, some of them are Shravana Pradhana. They predominantly focus on Shravana. What is Shravana? Vedantanam Tatparyavadharanam. Ascertaining the Tatparya of the Vedanta. It is called Shravana. There are texts that mainly deal with the Shravana. And then there are texts that deal with the Manana. Manana Pradhana Grantha. Manana is the process of logically ascertaining the teaching of Vedanta, finding logical support to the vision of Vedanta is called Mananam. Then there are certain other texts that are Nididhyasana Pradhana. They mainly focus on Nididhyasana, abiding in the knowledge, the process of assimilating the knowledge. So, we can classify the Prakarana Granthas under three categories: Shravana Pradhana, Manana Pradhana, and Nididhyasana Pradhana. Among them, this book is Manana Pradhana. It is a logic based. Every premise of Vedanta, every conclusion of Vedanta is established with proper logics in this text. The author of the text is one Lakshmidhara Kavihi. Lakshmidhara Kavi. On this text, Swayam Prakashayati has written a Vyakhyan. So we will start with the Mangalacharanam. The text begins with Mangalacharanam. Text begins with the Mangalacharanam. So it is our tradition to start any text with the Mangala. The Mangala is in the form of Ishtadevata Namaskara, salutation to the Ishtadevata. In the process of saluting the Ishtadevata, the author is conveying the Anubandha Chatushtaya of the text. Every text has an Anubandha Chatushtaya. What is Anubandha Chatushtaya? Granthaadhyayanam Swadjnanam anu Granthaadhyayanam prati badhnati prerayati iti Anubandha Chatushtayam. After knowing which, you can decide whether you should study the book or not. It is called Anubandha Chatushtaya. This book is available. There are a few books. A few more copies are there. Now you bring somebody. So whether he should take this book or not, how will he decide? Whether he should take this book or not, to decide that he should have some basic information regarding the book. It is called Anubandha Chatushtaya. In the modern books, there will be something written at the back side of the paper, the book. But in the tradition, it is systematically said who is qualified, etc. So, Anubandha Chatushtaya are the basic information regarding any particular text. And they are four in nature: Adhikari, Vishayaha, Sambandhaha and Prayojanam. Adhikari, Vishayaha, Sambandhaha and Prayojanam. So, who is Adhikari? Adhikari means a qualified person to study the text. First of all, he should be a mumukshu. If he doesn't want moksha, Vedanta is of no use for him. So, we have the sadhana chatushtaya. viveka, nityanitya vastu vivekaha, ihamutrartha phalabhoga viragaha, shamadhi shatka sampattihi, and mumukshutvam. These are the four anubandha chatushtayas, four sadhana chatushtayas, which determine an adhikari for Vedanta Shastra. For Vedanta Shastra, he is an adhikari. Sadhana chatushtaya sampannaha adhikari for Vedanta Shastra. For other Shastra, somebody else may be adhikari. For example, Vaidya Shastra, Bhaishajya Shastra, Ayurveda, who is an adhikari? You don't need to have sadhana chatushtaya sampatti for that. The adhikari is different. So anybody who wants to become a doctor, Vaidya, he is an adhikari for that. And he needs some basic qualification. So the adhikari for Vaidya Shastra is different. The adhikari for Gandharva Shastra is different. The adhikari for Jyotish Shastra is different. Likewise, every Shastra has a different adhikari. For Vedanta, who is an adhikari? Sadhana chatushtaya sampannaha adhikari. So, then second one is Vishayaha, the subject matter. What is the subject matter of this text? Then Prayojanam, what is the purpose? The phala, the prayojana. And what is the sambandha? Sambandha between the text and the subject matter. What is the sambandha? Between the text and the subject matter, what is the sambandha? And between the subject matter and the phala, the result, what is the sambandha? So this is sambandha. And the sambandha has to be told. What is the connection? Then prayojanam. So prayojanam is moksha. So we have seen the four things. So everything has its own anubandha chatushtaya. Every shastra has its own anubandha chatushtaya. When a particular shastra has a given anubandha chatushtaya distinct from other shastras, then it is considered as a unique shastra. So, since Vedanta has its own anubandha chatushtaya, if the Vedanta's anubandha chatushtaya are same as any other shastra, you cannot consider Vedanta as a unique shastra. For example, if the anubandha chatushtaya of Vedanta is same as anubandha chatushtaya of management or science, you cannot consider Vedanta as a separate shastra at all, because they will say the purpose is served by management, then why you have to study Vedanta? So that is the one of the prime contentions between Vedanti and the Purva Mimamsaka. The Purva Mimamsaka most often will argue that there is no separate Anubandha Chatushtaya for Vedanta. The Anubandha Chatushtaya of Vedanta is same as that of Veda Purva. Therefore, you cannot consider Vedanta as a separate Shastra. This argument occurs most often in the Bhashyas. Then the Siddhanti has to establish the distinct Anubandha Chatushtaya of the Vedanta Shastra. And then he says that the purpose of Vedanta is not Gatartha. Gatartha means it is not served by the Purva Mimamsa, by the Purva Mimamsa Shastra. Therefore, we need a different Shastra. We need to treat Vedanta as a different Shastra. So this discussion is there in the first Adhikarana of Brahma Sutra. So therefore Vedanta has its own distinct Anubandha Chatushtaya, and that is also indicated in this Mangalacharanam. So it is a prayer, Ishtadevata Namaskara, Kataksha Kirana Chanta Naman Mohabdhaye Namaha, Anantananda Krishnaya Jaganmangala Murtaye. We will chant Kataksha Kirana Chanta Naman Mohabdhaye Namaha, Anantananda Krishnaya Jaganmangala Murtaye. Yeah. Kataksha. Kataksha means Tiryakpatita Drishtihi. A drishti, a sight which goes horizontally, is called Kataksha. So Tiryakpatita Drishtihi, a glance, a drishti. Kataksha Kirana, the ray of glance. The ray of glance. A glance itself is compared to ray. Achanta, drunk, swallowed up by the ray of glance. What is swallowed up? Naman mohabdhihi. Namatam mohabdhihi. So the ocean of moha. Moha means ajnana. Ajnana is samsara karana. So moha eva abdhihi mohabdhihi. Ajnana is compared to ocean. Just like ocean is a cause of many waves, the ajnana is the cause of samsara, the waves of samsara. That is why ajnana is compared to ocean. Mohabdhi. So namatam mohabdhihi. The mohabdhi of the people who take refuge. Namatam. The devotees, the bhaktas who do namaskara. Namat, namadhatu, shatrupratyaya. Namatam. The people who do namaskara, their ignorance, which is compared to darkness, it is removed by very glance of Paramatma, the Kripa Drishti, the graceful glance of Paramatma, indicating that one needs Paramatma's grace to dispel ignorance. So, Kataksha Kirana Chanta Naman Mohabdhaye, Chaturthi Vibhakti, because Namaha governs Chaturthi Vibhakti. Namaswasti Swaha Swadhalam Vashadyoga Cha, Chaturthi Vibhakti. So, Katakshasya Kiranena Achantaha Namatam Mohabdhihi Yena Saha Kataksha Kirana Chanta Naman Mohabdhihi. This is a Bahuvrihi Samasa referring to Bhagavan, who will be mentioned in the next line. So, Tasmai Kataksha Kirana Chanta Naman Mohabdhaye. And who is that? Anantananda Krishnaya. He is Anantananda Krishna. Krishna is Anantananda. He is Ananta and Ananda. Ananta, infinite, free from limitation, and being free from limitation, he is Ananda. Therefore, he is called Anantananda. Anantascha asau anandascha anantanandaha. Anantanandaha eva Krishnaha. Anantananda Krishnaha. So, Anantananda Krishnaya, he is Krishna who is Anantananda. Jaganmangalamurtaye, and he is Jaganmangalamurti. So, his nature, Murti, is to do Mangala to the whole Jagat, to give happiness to the whole Jagat. So the Anvaya is Kataksha Kiranachantanamannmohabdhaye Jaganmangalamurtaye Anantananda Krishnaya Namaha. Namaskara to that kind of Krishna. So Anantananda Krishnaya. Sometimes there are people who describe Krishna Sharira as Ananda Swarupa. They don't know the difference between the Sharira and the Swarupa. The Sharira is a name and form. It is Namarupa. Sharira itself is not Ananda Swarupa. It is an Upadhi. What is Ananda? It is the very Swarupa. Many people who talk about Bhagavatam, etc., they do not seem to understand this. Yesterday I was listening to somebody's talk regarding Krishna. So they don't seem to understand the difference between the Krishna Namarupa and the Swarupa Ananda. Instead they thought this Krishna's body itself is Ananda. It is not so. So there is Swarupa and the Swarupa takes Upadhi. So here Anantananda Krishnaya means the Krishna whose Swarupa is Anantananda. So Jaganmangalamurtaye Namaha. So here Anantananda Krishnaya gives the Vishaya, the subject matter. The subject matter of this text is Paramatma, who is Ananta and Ananda Swarupa. The Vishaya is directly told and the other things are indicated. So who is an Adhikari? Namanmohabdhaye, the Namat, one who takes refuge at Paramatma for the sake of moksha, means a mumukshu. He is called Adhikari. He is an Adhikari. So Adhikari is indicated, a mumukshu who wants to be free from samsara and who takes refuge at Paramatma is an Adhikari. Then the Prayojana is also indicated by Jaganmangalamurtaye. He gives Mangala to the world. Even Anantananda as well as Jaganmangalamurtaye both indicate the Prayojana. So Prayojana is Mangala, means happiness, freedom from samsara. Samsara nivritti upalakshita sukha prapti. The sukha prapti, which is coupled with samsara nivritti, freedom from samsara. It is indicated by Jaganmangalamurtaye mainly. Then Sambandha also has to be understood. The Sambandha between the text and the subject matter is Pratipadya Pratipadaka Bhava Sambandha. Pratipadya Pratipadaka Bhava Sambandha. The text is Pratipadaka, revealer, and the subject matter, Brahman, Paramatma, is Pratipadya, revealed. Revealer, revealed relation between the text and the subject matter. And the relation between the subject matter and the phala, the prayojana, vishaya and prayojana. What is the sambandha? The sambandha is sadhya sadhana lakshana sambandha. The subject matter is a sadhana, a means for the prayojana, which is moksha. Because the vishaya jnana, the knowledge of the vishaya, knowledge of the subject matter, gives moksha. Therefore, there is a sadhya sadhana sambandha between the vishaya and prayojana. Just like in the karma kanda also, if I say karma kanda, nowadays people cannot relate. So let us take the example of cooking, because that is the only karma kanda left nowadays. Even Agnihotra is done in the cooking fire itself. The regular Agnihotra has disappeared. So in some households, when they light up the fire, they will put something into the fire. Yeah, rice they put. That is a small fossil of Agnihotra. So they put rice in some place, or they burn a flower in that thing. So it is a small remaining of Agnihotra which you see in your kitchen. So karma kanda, we have to give kitchen example. So you have a recipe book. Nowadays they don't have recipe book also. In olden days they had recipe books. When I was young, there was a recipe book. ಏನು ಈಗೆಲ್ಲ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್. So what is the purpose of the recipe book? The recipe books gives you the cooking process, the recipe. What is the relation between recipe and food? Food is the prayojana, the cooking. So between recipe and cooking, so recipe is the, cooking is the vishaya, and if you know that cooking, you will make food. So that is the prayojana. Cooked food is the prayojana. Tasty food is the prayojana. But there, knowing the recipe itself is not going to give you the prayojana. After knowing the recipe properly, how much of rice, half cup of rice, half cup of water, half cup of dal, not half cup, 2 cups of water. So you memorize the entire recipe. Just memorizing the recipe is also not going to give phala. You have to cook. Only then you get the cooked food phala. So there is a vyavadhana, a gap between knowledge and result as far as the recipe is concerned. There is a gap of a practice, an action called the actual action of cooking. So it is called anusthana vyavadhana or karma vyavadhana. So between the knowledge of recipe and the cooked food, which is the phala, there is a gap of karma. It is true in the case of karma kanda. So that is the relation between kitchen and karma kanda. Any karma that is revealed in the karma kanda, the knowledge of the karma itself will not give phala. You have to perform it and then you get phala. So there is anusthana vyavadhana between jnana and phala in the case of the karma kanda. Whereas here in Vedanta there is no gap between jnana and phala. Between the jnana and phala there is no gap. That is the difference between Vedanta and other Shastras. Therefore the sambandha between the Vishaya and Prayojana in this context is different in nature from that of Karma Kanda. So here the Vishaya Jnana itself gives the phala without any gap of anusthana. Since the Vishaya Jnana gives the phala without any anusthana, we can also understand that in the case of Vedanta, there is no difference between Vishaya and Prayojana. In fact, Vishaya itself is the Prayojana. As far as Vedanta is concerned. Only when Vishaya itself is Prayojana, the knowledge of Vishaya itself can give the Prayojana without any gap of Anusthana. If the knowledge of the Vishaya itself has to give Prayojana, it is possible only when the Vishaya itself is Prayojana. Therefore, in Vedanta, the Vishaya is Brahman What is the prayojana? We say prayojana is moksha. But what is moksha? Brahman only. It is Brahma Swarupa. So Vishaya is also Brahman, Prayojana is also Brahman. So that is the relation between Vishaya and Prayojana. Similarly, we can discuss the relation between Adhikari and Vishaya also. So, what is the relation between Adhikari and Vishaya? In other subject matters, the Adhikari and Vishaya are different. The student of atomic science himself is not atom. Whereas here, Adhikari himself is Vishaya. The Vishaya is the very Atma of Adhikari. So there is no difference between Adhikari and Vishaya in this case. And when does he become Adhikari? When he is not aware of himself as the Vishaya. He is an Adhikari. And what is the relation between Adhikari and Prayojana? Even there, Adhikari himself is Prayojana. What is moksha? Moksha is your own Swarupa. So, Adhikari, Vishaya and Prayojana are not different in Vedanta. They three are different in other fields of knowledge. In Vedanta, Adhikari, Vishaya and Prayojana all are one and the same Atma. So when there is Ajnana, there is the gap of Adhikari, Vishaya and Prayojana. I am an Ajnani Mumukshu. I want to know Brahman for getting moksha. I will be able to tell this only as long as I am Ajnani. Once I know the truth, I will not say this. I will not say I am a Jiva who is in search of Brahman for getting moksha. I am Brahman and I am moksha. There it ends. So, if we analyze the Anubandha Chatushtaya of Vedanta, it's not just that the Anubandha Chatushtaya of Vedanta are different from other Shastras, also they are unique in nature. So, we will see Shloka 2. Ahamasmi sada bhami kadachinaham apriyaha brahmaivahamatah siddham Satchidananda Lakshanam. Yeah. So, The Vedanta reveals the oneness of Jiva and Brahman. You are Brahman. Tattvamasi. This is Upadesha Vakya. The Upadesha Vakya is Tattvamasi. And then the student understands Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. Then you ask the student, how can you say you are Brahman? What is the logic? Then the student thinks a little and says, Aham asmi sada bhami kada chinnaham apriyaha. So, here we are making use of a logic. Lakshana aikyat lakshya aikyam. Two things. How many? So, how can you say two things are one? How can you say two things? Two things means a thing that is described by somebody and a thing described by another person. They are using two different words, yet they are talking about the same thing. How can you say they are talking about the same thing? For example, she is talking about one Devadatta. And she is not using the name Devadatta because she doesn't know his name. But she knows the parents, son of Mr. So and so, son of Mr. Ramachandra, and Sujata, their son. So, two women are conversing. And this boy had come yesterday, who son of Ramachandra and Sujata. Then this lady says, yeah, I saw him 2 days back. I saw a son of Ramachandra and Sujata 2 days back. So, all the descriptions are same. Descriptions are Lakshana. Son of Mr. So and so and Mrs. So and so. And eldest son. All descriptions are same. Then you can conclude that you are talking about the same person, even if you don't know the name. So that is Lakshana Aikyat Lakshya Aikyam. When the Lakshana are same, Lakshya is also same. So that is the logic used here. So here you are Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. How can I say that? the author says, the Lakshana of Brahman are there in me. My Lakshana and Brahman's Lakshana are one and the same. Therefore, I am Brahman. So, what are the Lakshanas? Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat, the existence, the unnegatable existence is called Sat. Existence that cannot be negated is Sat. Trikalepi tishtatiti Sat. That which is there all three times. Present, past, future, any time. All the time it is present. Eternally present. Eternally present means it cannot be negated. It is Sat. If we look at ourselves, our true nature is Sat. We cannot negate ourselves, the Sakshi, the Chaitanya. It cannot be negated. Everything else can be negated. So, Aham Asmi. I am Asmi. Asmi means I am. I have the unnegatable existence. Sada Bhami. Chit. I always shine. Sada Bhami. My awareness is always there. Even during deep sleep. Bhami. I am witnessing the absence of objects. Even during deep sleep. Therefore, I always shine. I am always conscious. My consciousness does not diminish at any point of time. So, Chit. Kadachit naham apriyaha. I am never apriya. Means I am always priyaha. I am always dear to myself. So here the logic used is yatra yatra pritihi tatra tatra sukham. Where there is a love, there is happiness. Happiness and love coexist. If we love any object, it means we are getting happiness from the object. Only if we get happiness from something, we love it. Therefore, anything that we love should have happiness. And it is true that we love ourselves. In fact, the greatest love that everyone has is for oneself. नवा अरे पत्युः कामाय पतिः प्रियो भवति आत्मनस्तु कामाय पतिः प्रियो भवति. Yajnavalkya tells Maitreyi, "Oh Maitreyi, nobody loves husband for the sake of husband. That is why Yajnavalkya is going. I am going to take sannyasa." So he has a valid reason for that. So nobody loves husband for the sake of husband. Everybody loves husband for the sake of oneself. Atmanastu kamaya patih priyo bhavati. Nava are jayayai kamaya jaya priya bhavati. Atmanastu kamaya jaya priya bhavati. Nobody loves wife for the sake of wife. Now don't go and fight there, okay? Atmanastu kamaya jaya priya bhavati. So don't be in a delusion. That is the idea. You don't have to fight. In the meantime, don't get into a delusion also. That some people love me. It is all it's all outside. So Atma, oneself, is the object of greatest love. Parapremaspada. Paramapremaspada is Atma. Therefore, Atma is Ananda. This is an inference. It is there in Panchadashi Prakarana 1. Iyama Atma Paranandaha Parapremaspadam Yataha Manabhuvam hi bhuyasam iti prematmanikshate tat prematmarthamanyatra naiva manyarthamatmani atastat paramantena paramanandatatmanaha. So kadachinnaham apriyaha gives the logic for Ananda Swarupa of the Atma. Therefore, Atma is Nitya Ananda Swarupa, always Ananda Swarupa. So, Sat Chit Ananda, Brahma Lakshana is there in me, in my Swarupa, not in the body. Body doesn't have any of these three. Body doesn't have Sat also. It is not there all the time. It comes and goes. So it is not Sat, it is Asat, Mithya. And it is not Chit also. Body is Jada. And body is not Ananda also, it is Dukkha. So Sharira does not have any of these three qualities. But unlike the Sharira, I am Sat Chit Ananda. Therefore, Satchidananda Lakshanam Siddham. Satchidananda Lakshana. The Lakshana which is in the form of Sat Chit Ananda, which is Brahma Lakshana, it is Siddham, it is established in me. I am Satchidananda. Therefore, Brahma eva aham. Therefore, I am Brahman. This is the conclusion. Since Satchidananda Lakshanam Mai Siddham, Ataha Aham Brahma eva. Therefore, I am Brahman. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ।